Unacceptable fringe. Unacceptable fringe. Unacceptable fringe. Unacceptable fringe.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. Merry Christmas. Boy, it feels good to say that. I hope you guys had a wonderful week and hopefully a less stressful week as Christmas is upon us. Festivus is upon us tonight, however, and boy, do I need to air my grievances, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. It's it's going to be a crazy show, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into the stream. As people jump in, I can see everybody jumping into the chat already. Throw up a roll call. Let me know where you're from. Let me know if we can get everybody as per usual. I like to make sure we've got everybody from at least or one person from every province in the country. So let me know where you're watching from, and let's get it rolling. David jumping into the stream. Welcome in, David, with a Merry Christmas all. Welcome in. Merry Christmas to you too, David. Merry Christmas from Jonathan Van House coming in. Or I guess it's Blackface Trudeau. Merry Christmas to yourself as well. We've got Dallin Vlogs jumping in. Merry Christmas to you, sir. Welcome into the stream. Susan Collette coming into the Merry Christmas as well. Louise coming in. Have a blessed Christmas, everybody. Same to you. Great to see you in here. Johnny Freak, I'm pressing start. It's not working. It's working now. Technical difficulties. Gotta love the way of the internet. It's he's also said, I pray all conservatives have a Merry Christmas. Yeah, so far. Let's get into more. David Brewer and a happy Festivus from the rest of us. Absolutely. And we're going to get into the Festivus season. Cindy Wilson jumping in with a Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, Cindy. Welcome into the stream. Cindy's also joining us in from Saskatchewan. We've got Jonathan Von House joining us from Windsor, Ontario. Again, welcome into the stream. Susan coming in from Port Alberni, Vancouver Island. Welcome into the stream. Louise is joining us in from Durham Town, Ontario. Welcome into the stream. Great to see you. Good old Chippy's Outdoors joining us in from Winnipeg. I met Chippy's last February when I was in Winnipeg to sign some of his books. Chippy, great to see you in here. Thanks for joining into the stream. Merry Christmas to you as well. David's coming in from the province of Springfield, Missouri. Welcome into the stream. Love my Americans. Welcome in. We've got Princess Thickness coming in from Montreal. Montreal, welcome into the stream. Great to see you. Mike TV Dub jumping in. Merry Christmas, fellow Unacceptable Fringers. Air your grievances, as is the custom. I believe Mike is joining us from Winnipeg. Welcome into the stream. We've got a Merry Platymus, one and all. From Mystical. Welcome into the stream, Mystical. Good to see you again. Stutter and Bob's jumping in. Merry Christmas as well, Bob. It's great to see you in here. John Sturrock's joining us from Edmonton. Good old Edmund Chuck. Welcome into the stream. Good to see you, John. Stephen Cranton coming in from Airdrie, Alberta. Good old Airdrie. I love me some Airdrie. In fact, one of my favorite shops where my collectibles are at, the toy shop I often visited, is in Airdrie. Love that town. Norm Nicholson coming in. Merry Christmas, everyone, from green and luscious Victoria. Listen, it might be green where you are, but Calgary paid just enough carbon tax that we got a nice dump of snow last night. So we're going to get a white Christmas for all the carbon tax we pay. Princess Thickness again joining us from Montreal. We've got Stefan M. Merry Christmas to you as well, coming in from Ottawa. White Ravens, hi from the communist shithole, China. Welcome into the stream, White Raven. Good to see you. Stutter and Bob's coming in from good old Calgary, my town, hometown. Love Calgary. Welcome into the stream. Good old Derek Macbeth joining us from Cowtown. Merry Christmas to you as well, sir. Welcome into the stream. Joseph Davis, Merry Christmas as well. He's coming in from Montreal. Mrs. Rex Murphy, Happy Yule in Salish Sea, Sunshine Coast. She's coming in from good old Cali. Mario Doring coming in. Love you from Dedmonton. Merry Christmas to you as well. Welcome into the stream. It's a me, a Mario. Jennifer coming in. How you doing, Jennifer? Good to see you in the stream. It's like +2 in winter peg, more like springer peg. Well, you guys didn't pay enough carbon tax, I guess. But don't worry, it's coming. I know Winnipeg. I know January. That -40 ain't gonna feel good. Sean's coming in from Oshawa, Ontario. Welcome into the stream. Uh, Sheila Hillier coming in from Labrador. Wow, that's geez on the other side of the country. But welcome in. Great to see you. That's late. Hopefully we're not keeping you up. Angry Canadian. Welcome into the stream. CB's jumping in. Mary Trudeau needs to take a walk in the snow. Christmas from Alberta. Merry Christmas to you as well, CB. Welcome into the stream. Good old CB. One Voice Calgary's coming in. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you as well. Welcome into the stream. Ontarian no longer identifies Canadian, but answer to French. Well, there you go. Welcome into the stream again, White Raven. Good to see you here. What do we got here? Oshawott? I gotta catch it. Chancey Strauss coming in from Grand Prairie, Alberta. Merry Christmas to you as well. Welcome into the stream. Brad Zimmerman's joining us in. Merry Chris from NDP Edmonton. Well, we can't always look at it as the negative, but welcome into the stream. We got Lori Enright coming in from Iderton, Ontario. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Welcome into the stream, Lori. Merry Christmas to you as well. Boy, do we have to talk about the holidays. Boy, do we have to talk about them. Some things have happened this week. If you've watched our video, of course, we had a video drop Thursday morning / Thursday afternoon, I guess you could say, depending on where you were in the country. Tamara Lich making her triumphant return to social media. Tamara getting her ban lifted from social media. Boy, was it good to not only good, it was rewarding. As I said in the video, Christmas came early. I was really happy to see Tamara come back. Again, it was on the fly. I was actually out grabbing some groceries, and I got a text from Tamara saying, "Hey, I'm back on Twitter," and I couldn't believe it. Like I was just, what happened? Because I know some things were offered here and there where Tamara could have got back online early, but she would have had to give up certain aspects of her rights in terms of what she can do moving forward. With her charges and what people can be held accountable for. And I actually had a conversation with her yesterday where I said, I'm very proud of her. I'm proud of her for sticking to her guns, because I've often said on this channel, her pandemic never ended. For the rest of us, we were allowed to go to restaurants. We were allowed to go out. Now, she was allowed to do those same things. But Tamara's also a grandmother. She can't go on social media and see pictures of her grandkids being posted. She can't talk with people. You think about all the people that you talk to in your day-to-day life over social media, whether it's Facebook Messenger, whether it's Instagram, whether you talk to people on TikTok, Twitter, even in this good old YouTube community. One thing I've always loved is this community. Boy, is this community awesome. We just hit 13,000 subs the other day. What an amazing Christmas gift. But imagine if you were cut off from all of that for 22 months. And people say, well, I could easily walk away from social media for 22 months. I'm not so sure, given the way people function in society. It's funny because I was talking to my father about Christmas and things like that, and he was actually going through some photos of the last couple of times we've gotten together where we've had family gatherings at his house. What was really daunting about those photos is when you scroll through them, everybody's on their phones. And it's not really something that I try to do. It's more subliminal. You don't think about those things when you're constantly picking up your phone, when you're attached to the hip. You think about not only that eye opener of man, I'm always on my phone. I need to stop and I need to maybe enjoy the world a little bit. But when you think about Tamara's situation, being locked out of that for 22 months, simply for exercising your own rights to speak up for tyrannical rule in the country. It must have been very tempting when offers were sent forward to potentially allow her back online, that she stuck to her guns. And I, for one, am more than proud of Tamara. I applaud her. She's the nicest, kindest person I've ever met in my life. I can't praise her enough. And I know people always say, you're kissing her butt, you're this, you're that. I keep telling people, what you see in her interviews, what you see on television, it's a fraction of what she's like as a human being. I have never met somebody more admirable in my life that it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you pick up the phone and call her and say, "Hey, I need your help," she says, "I'm in." She doesn't even ask what you're doing. It's what can I do? What do you need? Um, I wouldn't be where I am today without Tamara's help. Anytime I've needed to get in touch with somebody through networking, and I don't know these people or anything, and I sometimes say to Tamara, I wish I could get in touch with so and so. She's always said, "Oh, I know somebody who knows that person. Let me get them in touch with you." It's never been a question of, oh, that's inconvenient for me. It's out of my way. She's always willing to do anything for anyone. And I guess that's why it irks me so much when I go online and you see the trolls that say, "Oh, she bought implants with the trucker money. She bought a new house with trucker money. She's going back to jail." If she was going back to jail, the prosecution would have had their evidence out way, way in front, and these court cases wouldn't have been pushed back all the way to March. It was supposed to be done in October. I guess it gets under my skin when I see the bad rap that Tamara gets for trying to do the right thing. The unfortunate reality is that when you're branded technically the face of the Freedom Convoy, people associate the entire event around just you. And I wish they didn't, because she's a fantastic, fantastic person. I am so honored and proud to call her a friend, one of my better friends, and I can't wait to have her on the channel. We talked about that. We talked about her coming on for an interview, but she made me promise that the only way she's coming on for an interview is as long as it's in person. She won't do it over Zoom, which I can't wait. I love when Tamara comes to visit. It's always a great time. So keep your eyes peeled, ladies and gents. Tamara will be joining us on the channel in the future. Again, when you look at everything she's endured, she was doing her book tour over the summer with Rebel News for her Hold the Line book that came out through Rebel, and she was basically on tour all the way up until she had to be in Ottawa for her court case, and then she was there from September all the way basically until mid-November, with a couple of minor breaks, and then she came back to Alberta early December, and she's been running around ever since. So I've told her, look, put your feet up, relax, enjoy some time off. When you're ready, you come and visit. You get on the show. So I won't be pushing for that. But again, everybody rest easy. Tamara will join us on the channel when I'm satisfied she's had a significant break and is well rested and ready to come on and deal with it. Look at this. Tamara's in the chat. So I'm sitting here kissing her butt. She's sitting in the chat. Thank you so much for your kind words. You're a great friend. Tamara, thank you so much. And thank you for being here. Again, I was just about to say, we can't wait to have you in the channel. We can't wait to have you here for an interview. And I hope, out of anybody in the world, I hope you have the merriest and greatest Christmas, because you definitely have it owed to you, and it's definitely coming your way. Thanks for jumping into the chat. Um, it's all good. I popped in to say hello. Tamara's got this radar. It's like the Force. She can just feel it when someone's talking about her. So she knew to jump in. Tamara, thanks for popping in. I appreciate you being here. Welcome into the stream, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. Let's get on with what we're here for. No more butt kissing, because I don't want to give Tamara an ego. I don't want her head to get too thick. Let's 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 jump into what we got to talk about. I had a tweet earlier today. Because something irked me online more than the comments that I see about Tamara. Something irked me online today, and we're going to talk about that. Let's fix the screen here. While people are out trying to figure out what they're going to do for the holidays, while people are trying to figure out, do we keep the lights on? Do we put food in our fridge? Do we even have Christmas dinner? Well, Christmas dinner was on the mind of some liberals. As we see here, one of our liberal MPs standing in front of a Fair Share Food Bank sign, in her probably $300 jacket, nice scarf, her hair done up, probably paid easily $150 to get that done. Nice leather boots, outside smiling away, as Ryan Garrettson tweets out, "Quick, go stand in front of the food bank sign and look proud. The liberals are so out of touch." It's mind-numbing. This is disgusting. It's disgusting, and I tweeted out, "This isn't a virtue signal. It's a trophy for the Liberals to know they've put so many Canadians there. They're proud of this. And this is what's disgusting about where we've come. Oh, look, I donated, everybody. Look at me. I gave some of my money that comes from Canadian taxpayers back to Canadian taxpayers so that they can eat crappy food. They can have a little morsel while my family and I go and sit and enjoy Christmas and many, many gifts under the trees and alcohol flowing. And they don't have any worries about things like carbon tax. They don't have any um, they don't have any concerns when it comes to how they're going to afford their bills, because these people not only have the pension of a lifetime when they finish their jobs, they're overpaid. They're ridiculously overpaid. It's so sad and sickening to see. But that wasn't even the end of it. We see here Canada Proud tweeting out, a food bank in Toronto is giving out bags of groceries with a Liberal MP's branding. Do you see something wrong with this? Nathaniel Smith from the Liberals. How disgusting is that? Let's make that a little bigger, shall we? A little bag of groceries from Nathaniel Smith, just to remind you. Now, I tweeted out on this and said, how much does it cost? Now, as somebody who makes their own merch, I've done shirts, I've done hats. Bags are an option. Bags like this are an option on my merch store. And I'll tell you right now, they're not cheap to make. I'm sure that if you buy them in volume, keep in mind my store is print to order, but if you buy in volume, I'm sure the cost goes down, but it still costs. And when you think about doing this, when you think about making something like this, hey, sorry you can't eat. By the way, vote Liberal. If you enjoy not eating, it's almost like an ad. It's like if you enjoy the crap that's in this bag, keep in mind a Liberal put you here. Make sure to vote for us again so you can keep eating this garbage. It's disgusting. It's disgusting, and it's sad at the same time that this is where we've ended up. I have spoken to families that are in our community that have stressed how they cannot afford Christmas this year. They didn't know what they were going to do for their kids. I seen a mother who was shopping at Dollarama for gifts. Nothing wrong with Dollarama. But she's shopping there for gifts because she doesn't know how else to afford Christmas for her kids. That's sad and pathetic, because you think about the 30% of your check roughly on average that goes to your taxes, that goes to carbon tax, that goes to all this wasteful money that's going out. That 30%, especially if you were to axe the carbon tax alone, that extra money would help with things. There was a time when I always try to associate when I came out of my 20s. Now I'm in my 40s now, but in the early 2000s, I remember a friend of mine getting a job with the Calgary Police and being told that you start at $30,000 a year and you can work your way up to 50,000. And people at that time were going, "Holy crap, that's a lot of money." You could afford to buy a house for $275,000 back then. That wasn't even 25 years ago. Now a house is close to $1 million. That's ridiculous levels of inflation. I'm happy for anybody who owned a home who's made their money. But for the average person to buy a home right now, I have a friend who bought a home this year in Calgary. Their mortgage payment's almost $3,000 a month. And then they have property taxes, then their cell phone bill, then their car payment, then their gas, their utilities. Then they got to pay for after school activities for their kids. They got to pay for, clothing. And these Liberals are taking photos. They're proud of themselves. They're proud. This, like I said, this is a trophy for them. This is a win. They get to go enjoy their Christmas. They get to live it up. They get to drink. They get to have big parties. Don't get me wrong. Conservatives do the same thing at Christmas. I mean, Pierre Poilievre's house is paid for by the taxpayers as well, don't forget. So I don't want to make it sound like they're struggling. But what these politicians forget when they're out virtue signaling is that people are really, really suffering right now. I I feel guilty when I go out and purchase gifts for my kids. And I'm not rich by any standards. But anytime I'm standing at the till and I see other people that are in worse situations, I feel guilty just as a human being saying, I can afford things that other people can't right now. Yet these liberals are out taking their photos. I think it's disgusting. I think it's utterly disgusting and shameful. An election can't come soon enough. Right now, when you look at the NDP outpolling the liberals, I think this liberal party's destroyed. I think they should all be ousted and they should be thrown in jail, quite frankly. Every single one of them, lock them up. I keep looking over at that screen. I'm going to have to shut that down because I can't even look at that. I can't even look at it. It's so disgusting. This is supposed to be the season of giving, the season of reflection. Christmas used to be, and it still is, one of my favorite times of the year. It's funny. I was out for dinner with my wife tonight talking about how it's funny I say that now that I was talking about affordability. And we went out for dinner because, well, Christmas is going to be hectic and it's kind of our only chance to get out before the holidays start. But nonetheless, when I say we were out for dinner, it was fast food, but we were sitting there and I said, I'm not the same person I was even 10 years ago. Because in the last 6 years, we went from the worst phone call of my life. Before I get into that, look at Dan with 5 gifted memberships. My God, Dan, thank you. Jesus, Merry Christmas, my man. Wow, welcome to the Fringe for 5 people. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's amazing. Wow. So 6 years ago, I got the worst phone call of my life. My wife and I had just dealt with a stolen vehicle. We went to my oldest daughter's 21st birthday, where our car was stolen while we were there. It was the first date we'd had in about 4 years because we had my daughter and we were just so busy with moving. We'd bought our first house. We hadn't gone out, so it was the first date we'd been on since we technically had 2 kids at that point. And our vehicle was stolen. Our car was stolen while we were at my daughter's birthday, and we just got our vehicle replaced. We had so the guys who stole our car were arrested the day before insurance was going to give up and write off the vehicle outright. They found the guys who stole the vehicle. They were walking to our home at 1:30 in the morning with our garage door opener. And the police often check our neighborhoods because we're near a C train line for things like stolen vehicles. But they found these 2 suspicious individuals walking around with our garage door opener. And they had my registration. And they were going to come break into our home. And the cops stopped them, questioned them, and then found all of our stuff. Then they drove around the neighborhood and found our car spray painted, completely ruined and full of drugs and all sorts of garbage. But so we just dealt with insurance. And the only reason I talk about any of that is because it was the day we picked up our new car. Insurance, basically, when we had a rental vehicle through our insurance, they called and said, okay, they're going to write off the vehicle. You have to have your rental car back by tomorrow. Because we're going to cut you a check. So my wife and I essentially had 24 hours to go out and buy a brand new car and have that car in our possession because we had 2 kids. We had to be able to move around. So we just done all that. We just bought a brand new vehicle. And while I was on my way to meet a family member, my mother called in a trance because she was really drugged. She thought she called my father, and she called to tell me about her cancer, that she was diagnosed with cancer. She was in the hospital. And it wasn't just cancer. They told her it was mesothelioma, which of course there's no cure for. So she was essentially handed a death sentence. And I was literally just leaving the house and my mother called and basically told me she was going to die. And from that day forward, things changed. I was a very happy-go-lucky, energetic goofball. Like, again, if you look at my background, you look at everything I do on YouTube as positive as I can be. I was a pretty rambunctious party kind of guy, and then when that phone call came through, it's almost like I've said to my wife, if you could record that moment and go through it frame by frame, you could almost see the moment where my mind and my heart just completely crumbled and snapped. Um, you don't think about those things. You don't think about again, at the time I was 39. I don't think about the possibility of losing a parent because you're still in your 30s. You're young. You don't realize what precious time you have. And it kind of came rushing up. Like one day everything was fine. The next thing, my mom was having issues breathing in the hospital, told she's got mesothelioma. Um, so we started dealing with the ideas of what do we do next? How do we get through this? How do we deal with chemotherapy? Um, what kind of time are we looking at? And then immediately after that, um, the government locked everybody down. So out of the 3 years we had left, I wasn't able to go and see my mother because, well, COVID. I wasn't allowed to go out of the house. I wasn't allowed to go over there and see her. Anytime she'd go for chemotherapy, her immune system was compromised. And again, we're trying to get all the time we can. I felt horrible for my father. Had to run up and down flights of stairs at our house. My folks live in a 2-story home. She was bedridden. He had to run up and down stairs all day. He got his cardio, but you know, he was at retirement age almost, and he's running around the house trying to do what he can to keep things going, and he can't get any help because we're not allowed over at the house. Um, Fast forward a couple of years into the pandemic, and I had to watch my mother pass away, being told I wasn't allowed in the room because God forbid somebody give her COVID while she was in palliative care, meaning this is the end. There's no coming out of it. So I think when I look at the last 6 years in our household, I've changed drastically. I look at the lockdowns and I look at what it's done to my kids this week, and I'm going to get into my rant about my kids' Christmas concert because I know everybody enjoyed the rant last week, so we're going to get into a Festivus rant. Um, but I looked at my daughter at her Christmas concert this week, plain faced, no emotion. And a lot of it is because there's such a social disconnect with kids being home during those 2 years, not being able to be around other kids, no sleepovers, no birthday parties, no anything, no social interaction. Everything's done over a camera like we're doing right now. I mean, everybody, this isn't anything new to people. I look at it and say, this is where we were heading as a society, that our kids have no attachment to anything. They don't have the experiences I had I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I loved that decade, those 2 decades. I loved jumping on my bike, going out, playing hide and go seek with kids, running around with plastic guns, Nintendo, arcades, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and He-Man, GI Joe. Like it was the best decades of my life. You look at the music that came out in the 90s. I mean, that was the time to live. I look at all those experiences and go, a lot of what I had as a child from kindergarten to like grade 3, my daughter had missed. So now she's starting fresh without those experiences, and I look at all of that and go, this is why I've changed. The government destroyed those couple of years that we never had the chance to really pick our lives back up. And the purpose of this very long rant about the government is that this is why I get irked when I see them taking photos outside of a food bank. They've destroyed the fabric of people's lives through division, by telling people they're dirty if they don't follow medical procedures, by um, ripping away their incomes, by making life difficult. There's people who make middle class wages. Like, there's people that make 60, 70, $80,000 a year, and they can't pay their bill. They're living check to check. That's inexcusable. I can't believe we're in a society like that. And the reason I talk about everything that happened with my mom, the reason it changed me, it brought me down. I'm in the process of fixing a lot of the trauma from those years that I haven't dealt with because it's affected my family life. It's affected my personal life. I've gotten wrapped up in business just because it's a distraction from facing reality that my mom's gone and my kids are miserable and how do we get things back? It's kind of like if you've ever seen Spider-Man Homecoming and he's trying to stop that ferry from that's been split in half and he's got all of his webs out and he's holding both sides and he's just struggling to keep it together. That's kind of what it feels like sometimes is that the whole world's about to pull in half and tear apart. But then I go out and I see families that are really struggling. And it's like I can have problems of my own, but I wouldn't want to be in somebody else's shoes that are just trying to get by and they literally have nothing. And they're doing their best and they're working as hard as they can. And they're not getting anywhere. And that's why I get real frustrated when I go online and I see people who talk nasty about people like Tamara, who talk about, oh, shut up, go get your jabs and work harder if you want to do things, get another job. It's people that are so toxic, and it's like you don't know the measure of what other people are going through. You don't understand that while things are rough in your shoes, I guarantee you, no matter how bad it is in my house, somebody else is dealing with something significantly worse, and my problems look like nothing on a scale compared to what they're dealing with. And that's where I wish we could fix things. This is the time of year to reflect on those things and say, I missed the Christmases as a child where it was just Santa Claus gifts and seeing family. It feels like something's missing because Christmas this year, especially the last few years, mostly again because of government actions, haven't felt like Christmas. I used to be the guy who wanted to be like Chevy Chase at Christmas and decorate the house and piss off my neighbors with all my lights and um, go overboard. And we haven't had that. That feeling is gone. It's I'll do everything I can for my kids to have a magical Christmas. But for myself, it's like tomorrow's Christmas Eve and it doesn't feel like Christmas. I don't know. Maybe I need to distance myself from politics a little bit, um, and break away when outside of YouTube because it's depressing to think that this is the world we're in. This is where we're at. It's next year. Next year is going to be a crazy, crazy year. When people talk about how crazy this year was, where hey, inflation was up. You think about how much the bank raised interest rates over the years or this year. Next year, when people's mortgages are renewing and they're told you can't get approval, um, when people's jobs start cutting staff, because it's coming. If you thought this year was bad, I mean, I keep seeing people's optimism online saying an election's coming in the spring. It's over. We're going to get back to normal. No, we're not. I hate to burst anybody's bubble. We most likely, I think we're going to see an election by spring. I think we're in that mode. And we're going to get into some of that too. But all I can say for people who are optimistic is I appreciate your optimism. I'm very jealous that you can be optimistic, but buckle up because I think next year is going to get nuts. Sorry, I guess my mods are missing tonight. There we go. Sorry guys, I've been missing the chat. I don't mean to be ignoring the chat. I don't mean to be cutting people out. Let's Derek needs mods. I have mods. They're usually here, but again, it's Christmas, so I understand that they're not here. People are with their families. It's crazy where we're at. Mike TV Dub, make me a mod. I'll protect the chat. Mike, you've been here for a long time. You know what? I'll get on that. I'll make you a mod after the stream. Just because I'm in a different program. I'm not in YouTube, so I can't do that right now. But I will. I will, Mike. In fact, I'll get you into the mods list and welcome you into that. Now, another good thing. One good thing that happened this week, and one thing I wanted to touch on that was great. Let's get out of the negative. Let's get away from that. if you missed videos this week, if you missed anything, last Sunday I told you that I had a gift coming for you guys this week. And of course, we did our reading of How the Prime Minister Stole Freedom. And it wasn't just myself. You know, people have been saying for a long time, ever since we did the deep fake video, where I worked along with Alex Woods and he did the deep fake of Justin Trudeau reading How the Prime Minister Stole Freedom. People have been saying they'd really like to see me do a reading, which I'm very flattered. I don't think it's that important that I do a reading, but you know, I kind of thought it would be fun. You know, when I watch things like mean tweets on Jimmy Kimmel, you know, back when he was funny, or any of those things where they do compilations with celebrities, I thought it'd be really good to reach out to some of the people I've met over the last year and a half, because after all, I'm only here because of them. And it would be great to have them included in a project reading the book. And boy, did that turn out well. I was so excited to see how that worked out. Um, it was amazing. It was incredible. I hope you guys were able to. Um, I hope you guys were able to catch that video and see it in its entirety. It was a lot of fun to put together. I really had a good time putting that video together for you guys. And boy, that was the very first video I've ever actually edited and had to put in music. And I know people were saying, well, this music's on a loop. The problem with that video and the reason it was on a loop is because every time I would upload what they labeled as royalty-free Christmas music, every time I'd upload the video, I would get a notification from YouTube that you're now sharing view royalties with some author of a company. And they'd say, well, we are royalty free. You just have to email us and it can take up to 72 hours. I didn't have time for that. So I had to find stock music and loop it. But it was the first time I've ever edited a video together. And I know it was wonky in spots, but really fun to put together and really tested what I could learn about these editing programs. And I had a lot of fun doing that. So that being said, I think in the new year, I'm going to try and do a little bit more in terms of editing in the videos and trying to make them look a little bit more in tune with what's expected on YouTube. I think that'll be fun. Um, Maybe put some projects together in the new year. I'm looking forward to that. Keep in mind for anybody who's watched this channel and from the beginning, when I was covering politics, I used to cover fun things like the arcades that I have in the back and my knowledge of retro gaming, and I did some streams and things like that. I think in the new year, I've got another channel coming up called Missing Context, which I'm going to have more drama related videos, movies, music, entertainment, um, stuff in that realm, the culture wars, and also video game and gaming streams again as a side channel. So keep an eye out for that. Again, because of the Christmas season, I wanted to get graphics done, all of our transitions, things like that. So I had somebody working on them, but they kind of messaged me and said, look, man, I want to go on holidays. Is it okay? And I said, take your time. There's no rush. I think it's best to do it in the new year. January, figuratively, is one of the slower months for YouTube. So I thought that's the best time to really get down and hone in that channel and start building it up. So keep your eyes peeled, folks. That second channel is coming. It's going to be a lot of fun. Um, I see people mentioning the petition that's going on. Mystical saying, do you have a theme song? I do. In fact, so before I started Unacceptable Fringe, I had, during the pandemic, I was trying to start a podcast through my Twitch channel where once a week I sat down with a friend of mine and we went over the same kind of content that's going to be coming to that channel. And I called it Missing Context. And the same guy who did my theme for Unacceptable Fringe, my good friend Dan, if he's ever in the chat under Sevro, you'll see him. And that's going to be it. Now, Angry Canadians jumping in, come clean. What's going on with Clyde? He'd made a comment in the video why Clyde wasn't in that Monday video. I'm not going to talk about Clyde on this channel. I've already made my statement that Clyde won't be working alongside anything that I'm doing in the future. We have parted company, and that's all I'm going to say. There will be no drama. I'm not a drama channel. I'm not bringing drama into this. We've agreed to disagree on certain things, and I'm moving forward. So if you guys want answers from Clyde, you're welcome to go ask him. I don't think he'll be entertaining those, but I'm not going to throw drama out there. So there's nothing to come clean about. Sometimes people just part company, and that's the way things go. So I won't be addressing it anymore. So I'll bring it up this one time, and that's it. you're free to ask what's going on. I won't be answering those questions. I won't be bringing it up out of respect for other people and their privacy. And again, I don't want to have drama on the channel, so we won't be talking about it. It's really disappointed in that. That's fine. You're free to feel that way. Um, again, a lot of people don't know what goes on behind the scenes. A lot of people don't know discussions that take place. And again, people have different opinions, different views, and sometimes people just want to move on with their channels and do what's best for them. Um, I have no gripes against Clyde. I wish him all the best. Again, we've just agreed to disagree on some things, and that'll be it. Yep. See, Deb says it best. Let's move on. There we go. I couldn't agree more. Anyway, what were we talking about? Future projects. I do have an announcement. I do have an announcement that I wanted to bring to the table. I haven't cleared it, but I will say I am working alongside a new company in terms of bringing some more branded stuff to you guys in terms of merchandise. I was hoping to disclose that partnership on tonight's stream. Unfortunately, there's been some setbacks, some people in the company with personal issues, but just keep your eyes peeled in the new year. I will be talking about some really high quality stuff that's coming to the community for you guys. I've been, of course, um, if you know that if you've looked at even our sweaters, hats, things like that, they're all based off of my logos and different designs, and I've wanted to offer something a little bit more high quality for people who want to support our brand, but also bring some higher caliber production to what we're doing. And I don't want to spoil too much or go into it, but there is something great coming. I'm really looking forward to working with this company. This company, of course, is involved with charity as well. And that's part of the reason I've been drawn to them, is that they work very active in the charity realms, and they're a Canadian company. So again, hopefully in the new year, I am going to have the head of that company on the channel to talk about their views in politics and why we formed this partnership. And I'm looking forward to bringing that to you guys. It's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun. Anyways, I don't know. Are you guys in the mood for a rant? We had a little bit of a rant earlier, but do you guys want to see my real rant? Do you guys want to get into um, the real ups and downs of of what gets me going? You guys want to know what grinds my gears? We talked last week about, there's Mystical with the rant away, rant. Here we go. Let's get into it. I got to do it in Peter Griffin's voice. I got to be like, okay, everybody, here we go. Here's time for my little rant. Get yourselves buckled in there, and let's have it out there. I went to my daughter's Christmas concert. Wednesday. And last week, I talked about a little bit of what I don't like about the schools in terms of what they expect from parents financially, especially again when we talk about what the Liberals were doing. God, this pom-pom thing keeps hitting me in the ear. When we talked about their expectations from parents financially, when it comes to all these different days of things that they're doing excessively, where it's, we want your kids to have red shirts today, we want them to have striped clothes the next day, we're going to do fancy hats the day after that, we're going to do fun lunches that are $35 a kid once a month, we're going to do all this other stuff. It started to pile up. One thing that's always bugged me, not a rant, it's Festivus, air your grievances. Well, whatever way you want to look at it. This is the airing of the grievances. This is what grinds my gears. This is it all in one. Okay. We went to the school. The schools are known for their virtue signals. Again, when you look at Alberta, especially in Edmonton, where you've got a lot of the teaching unions, the medical unions, that's the reason why there's so many NDP elected in Edmonton, because NDP typically fund health and education over everything else. So a lot of those people suck up to they suck up to the NDP because they think about their benefits over everybody else's. They don't think strategically about, well, I might get a raise as a teacher, but I'm also going to pay more tax. They don't really outweigh the benefits of what they're doing. The problem with the schools while they're fart huffing and getting high off their own stench. Where do I start? Um, we talked about um, last week. I talked about the whole white shame that goes on in this country, especially when it comes to reconciliation, when it comes to um, recognizing the land. Now, I'm going to let it be known I have no problem with with natives. I have no problems with I have problems with the ones that break the law. I have the one problems with the ones that abuse their spouses, that abuse animals. I have problems with that, but I'd have a problem with anybody of any race that does that. Um, but I have no issues when it comes to their land, what they deal with, and their gripes with the government. They have gripes with the government just like we do. There's a reservation very close to my house that has a number of businesses, including the Costco I shop at. Um, and they're very happy, and they're happy to see white people. They don't even mention race when you go in there because we're all kind of part of the same community, and they all work for a living, which is great to see. And when they're working, they're getting kickbacks from the city and the government for having those businesses on their land, on their property. We've done a conjunction in order to get a road built through there, and things for the most part have been great. But the schools sit and talk about the unclaimed bodies that haven't been found in Kamloops. That again, I'm sorry to say this, until they physically exhume any bodies or dig up any kind of evidence as to what they're talking about, I'm not buying a ground scan of tree roots and lime sediment that's in the ground. Um, the reality is that kids in those times, whether they were native, whether they were white, black, Asian, I don't care, kids passed away from diseases that we didn't have cures to like we do today. I'm not sticking up for church residential schools or their policies. In fact, my father went to a residential school as a kid, and he said that they were very strict, and he talked a lot about what went on in those schools, from a standpoint of as to why people would have animosity towards them. And I understand all of those things, but the reconciliation, um, recognizing the land every day. When I grew up going to school in the 1980s, we'd go to school in Winnipeg, and our school used to say the Lord's Prayer every morning. It wasn't a Catholic school, but saying the Lord's Prayer was part of school. After a while, they ruled that out because, again, offended. Um, but we also sang "O Canada" every morning, and we sang the real version of "O Canada," not this all of us command stuff. Um, when you go to these school plays now, the level of virtue signaling that went on at this school play on Wednesday, this they call it a Christmas celebration. They don't call it, sorry, they call it a holiday celebration. They don't even include the word Christmas in it because God forbid Christmas is offensive. When you go there, the kids are told to wear red and green. They're told to wear Christmas themed clothing, but they don't want to acknowledge the word, but they want to acknowledge the land. And when you go in the gymnasium, you can see they have the Chinata flag, good old Canada sitting up there. They have the Alberta flag, and then there's two flags on both sides of those flags. One of them's that Indigenous flag with the infinity, the figure eight symbol on it. I don't know what it's referred to. I know it's referred to as part of reconciliation. And I know, and then they have another one with like a dream catcher and feathers on it and stuff. And it's all part of their bend over to, hey, we all have to have white guilt, and we all have to be ashamed of the fact that hundreds of years ago people made salty deals for land, and people colonized Canada that we had nothing to do with. so so they get through this whole recognizing of the land, which again I went into great detail last week's rant. But the problem I had was the content used for this show. They do a couple of songs where they get kids doing the usual dumb stuff where they're dabbing and they're wearing sunglasses and acting like stereotypical 90s rappers. And, it's cute. It's whatever. The parents are giggling and taking photos, which, by the way, they tell you to be careful not to take photos. And if you do, you're not permitted to put them online because other parents may be upset if their kids are on the internet or things like that. Listen, I understand the concerns. I understand why people don't want their kids on the internet, but it's a Christmas concert. Parents are going to take photos. They're going to want to share them. They do a live stream of the concert for parents who can't make it to the concert. So if that's being live streamed and broadcast, I don't think you should be telling people what they can and can't do with the photos they're taking. I can play devil's advocate and understand a portion of why they say not to. However, they sing their couple of little fuddy-duddy songs that have nothing to do with Christmas. And then they get to the portion where they say, we're going to do a reading of a Christmas story. And I thought, oh, good, they're going to get into something Christmas themed. Nope. The music teacher, who's also the vice principal of the school, goes out of his way to and this is where I have the problem. I wouldn't have noticed this had it not have been mentioned, but he says, we're going to read a book about the first Christmas book to have an African American child in it. So he has to point out, and that's where I have the problem, is we're going to go out of our way and we're going to point out that, hey, everybody, there's a black kid in this story. Look how great we are. Feel shame that it's the first of its kind because we're all white, and we're sitting here listening to this black kid. And the reason I have to bring up white is because it's thrust upon us these days. I certainly don't see things in colors. The rest of the world does. Okay. So they have to mention this is the first book of an African American child experiencing winter out in the snow. And again, the book has nothing to do with Christmas. It's simply there because there's a black character in it. And all that happens in the book is the kid goes walking through the snow. He gets hit in the face with a snowball, puts one in his pocket to remember that there's snow outside for some reason. Like it's never happened before. And then he goes home, has a bath, and then comes out to find out the snowball melted in his pocket. And then wakes up the next day and goes outside and plays with his friend. Nothing to do with Christmas. Absolutely nothing. They finished the stupid story. And then when it's done, they say, now we're going to sing a song about snowflakes. But this is a different song about snowflakes. And I'm thinking, oh, good, they're going to recognize what they are. And then he turns around and says, this is a song that was written for the students of Sandy Hook. So again, fart huffing. So we've done recognition of the land. We've done Look Everybody, a black kid in a book. And now we're doing a song about the Sandy Hook massacre to virtue signal for a bunch of kids who were ruthlessly murdered over 10 years ago. I'm going to come out right now and say what happened in Sandy Hook was a goddamn travesty. I feel so sorry for any parent who lost their child on that fateful December day when a crazed lunatic of a 20-something-year-old went in there and opened up fire and slayed innocent children. I know what it's like to look at my kid in a hospital bed. I can't imagine what it's like to have a police officer come to your home and say that you've lost your child. So my heart goes out to every single parent that lost their kid in that terrible, terrible massacre. But for the school to do this, the problem I have with it is that they're doing it for brownie points. They're doing it so they can huff their farts and feel good about themselves and go, oh, like they go sit in their stupid little staff room after and say, oh, isn't it so great that we can post this on Instagram and we can talk about how great we are and how we went out of our way to have a black kid in a story. And then we talked about Sandy Hook and all the victims. And we, like, my daughter came home at 9 years old and said, what is Sandy Hook? So I have to sit there and tell her, well, a crazy kid with an automatic rifle went into a school and shot it up and killed a bunch of kids 2 weeks before Christmas. Why do I need to tell my 9-year-old about that? Why do I need to, not only my 9-year-old, my 7-year-old who was asking, what is Sandy Hook? As they sat there. It also that these teachers can go and post online about, hey, everyone, look at my selfie. Look at me here with all these kids. We're singing about Sandy Hook. That's the only reason they do it. It has nothing to do with education. It has nothing to do with paying respect. Again, I think what happened in Sandy Hook is a goddamn travesty. It's so that they can feel all warm and cuddly about themselves as they go home and finger their buttholes and think about how great of a person they are, when really they're just scumlords. I will never look at any of that faculty with an ounce of respect for what they're doing. This entire concert was nothing more than a giant virtue signal. And it's the content that you're teaching these kids. Again, to have a 7-year-old and come home and say, what is Sandy Hook? Why did they mention this place Sandy Hook? It was a song about snowflakes. What happened to Santa Claus and Jingle Bells and friggin' gingerbread men? Why can't we sing about those things? Why can't we sing Up on the Housetop? There's nothing religious about that song. It's about Santa Claus coming to bring presents to kids. Why can't they do things like that in school? Instead, we got to huff, each other's farts and listen to, look at this tragedy. Oh, look at this black kid. Look at all these other things that happen. Again, if they hadn't gone out of their way to virtue signal that, hey, everyone, we chose a story with a black kid, I never would have noticed the character was black. I wouldn't have cared. But it's going out of your way to point it out and say, look at this. Hey, everyone, look at me. Look at what we're doing. That's the problem I have with the whole thing. It's all for their own friggin' validations. It's validation. They go home, they invite people over for Christmas for their holiday parties, and they sip their wine, their boxed $3 wine, go, oh, did you happen to see what we did at the school this year? We're so concerned about, everything that's going on in the world with climate change, and we love Justin Trudeau, and we want to get our 8th booster, and we sang a song about students in Sandy Hook because we care so much about what happened there. We thought that singing a song made it all better. That's what they do. And that's what really grinds my gears. I hate it. I hate it. It's social reprogramming. Yeah. Yeah. Social programming. Here's the problem. After that concert, I'm not done. After that concert, I go to Walmart because we had to pick up stuff. My kids asked me, we had to pick up a prescription. And my kids asked me, can we go through the Christmas section just to look? Now, I haven't been through the Christmas section in quite some time. My wife and I, a few years ago, she got a bonus and we redid everything Christmas in our house. We redid, we got a brand new tree. We got new decorations. We got all the stuff we wanted for our living room when we renovated the house. When my mom passed away, I got some of the life insurance check that she wanted to come to us, and I redid my floors, and we kind of at the same time said, let's buy new Christmas stuff. So I haven't been into the Christmas section for a while. When I go into the Christmas section of Walmart, everything, nutcrackers, Santa Clauses, wrap, like gift wrap, tags, all of it, black. Now, if you're a black family and you want to get a black Santa Claus, I have no issue with that. I have no issue with that. So long as you had black Santa Claus and white Santa Claus available to purchase. But this Walmart, everything, the Christmas cards, the gift wrap, the 2-foot high Santa Claus statues that you buy to maybe put on like your stair landing or something, all black Santa Claus and black Mrs. Claus, black nutcrackers. There was no other choice. If you wanted a nutcracker for your home, you had to buy a black one. If you wanted a Santa Claus for your home and you had to buy it there, like you couldn't go anywhere else for some stupid reason, you had to buy a black Santa. Again, I have nothing wrong with people's race. I have nothing wrong with if I were a black family, maybe I want a black Santa Claus. I have nothing against that. But you have to have options for people who aren't black, who want traditional Santa Claus, traditional nutcrackers, traditional gift wrap. I watched this Eddie Murphy god awful movie on Amazon this year called Candy Cane Lane. I think that's what it's called. David Alan Grier from In Living Color, funny guy. He plays Santa Claus in the movie. Another black Santa. Again, nothing wrong with that, but it's like they're whitewashing Christmas. It's woke Christmas. I just I have a problem when it's deliberately done to shove it in people's faces. Again, I don't mind options. I have no problem with options. I remember watching the Friday After Next, great Ice Cube movie. In fact, I'll probably watch it before Christmas Day. But there's black Santa Clauses in that movie, and that movie came out in the early 2000s. Again, I have no problem with black Santa Claus. But you can't just stock all black stuff and say, because there were black people who used to say, how come there's no black Santa Clauses? How come there's no black nutcrackers? How come I always have to buy a white Santa Claus? So they made those for people who had an issue with the fact that they couldn't buy what was good for their household. But now it's like, well, you guys who had the traditional stuff, you don't get that anymore because we want to virtue signal and be woke. That's the problem I have with it. This has nothing to do with race. Nothing to do with race. Nicholas was a 4th century Greek, probably had blue eyes and blonde hair. It's yeah, but the point is that the mythology of Christmas. This is where I get into at the beginning of the show when I was talking about what lockdowns did for kids and what they're shoving in kids' faces. When you look at everything that happened at this Christmas concert for my kids, where again, my kids come home asking, "Hey, Dad, what was Sandy Hook?" Because they won't tell us. Well, they're happy to virtue signal, but they don't want to talk about the history of Sandy Hook. Um, this is all done to change the norm. One video I haven't made that a lot of people were talking about was this 55-foot statue in what is it? I don't know if it's Brampton, Ontario. It's in Ontario. It's on private property, but people still have an issue with it. It's being privately funded and on private property, and people are saying this is changing. This is colonizing Canada. Now, I think again, people are free to do what they want on private property with private money, but at the same time, I understand people's gripes with it. It feels like everything. It was Brampton. Okay, Shepard saying it was Brampton. I feel like everything that's been happening lately isn't for good intentions. Well, I shouldn't say I'm feeling like that. We know that. We know that it's everything you like sucks, and everything you like needs to be changed. We need to alter the world. We need to alter the way you look at life. Um, Jennifer saying divide and conquer. That's what Justin Trudeau's been most successful at. And that's one thing that I'll honestly say. People talk about how stupid he is, and believe me, he is friggin' stupid. Justin Trudeau is a stupid, stupid individual. But his divide and conquer, when you look at the old saying that there's power in numbers, what Justin Trudeau's done over the last 8 years is divide people into tiny, tiny little groups: vaxxed, unvaxxed, color of your skin, holidays you celebrate, priorities you have, climate activists, climate changes, climate deniers. gender ideology, you name it. He's found a way to divide everybody into these small little cliques so that when he has a problem with one of them, you can easily take them out by pitting all the other ones against them. Very smart strategy. Now, obviously, he's not pulling the strings. Somebody else is. Somebody's telling him what to say and do. But one tweet that I put out today, when you talk about divide and conquer, let's show this. Because this tweet here, again, Ryan Garrettson, he's great on Twitter. Go give him a follow if you haven't already. 72% of Canadians feel Trudeau should go. Trudeau, I'm not done yet. This shouldn't be considered normal behavior. Now, he has a point, but what I've said here is that this should actually scare the shit out of people. After all the scandals, is everyone oblivious to this statement that more than likely this means he has an ace up his sleeve? Meaning, if we look at an election, if we see a spring election, like for any other politician, whether this was Paul Martin, Jean Chrétien, Brian Mulroney, any of these guys, they would have stood down. They would have said, the numbers are so low. If we want to save the party, I got to stand down. This guy won't. There's something he knows that we don't. Like, I feel like this is Joe Biden level of corruption where it's, yeah, we're going to have an election, but somehow Justin Trudeau is going to win that election. Like, he's got something going on that we don't know about. Because why else wouldn't he step down? You can't tell me this is all hubris. That this is all his swelled ego. That should scare the living daylights out of people as to what's coming. Scary. Really scary. You think about a War Measures Act and things they can talk about. Oh, we're going to delay elections. Theo Fleury, really good friend of mine, friend of the channel, he's even tweeted out there won't be an election in 2025. This guy's going to find every reason to call it off, to delay. Freestyle, they're all working together. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Uncle Klaus is looking over him. Yeah, absolutely. September 2025 Emergencies Act because we're at war with somebody. Well, when you look at what's going on right now with Israel Palestine, you look at the Ukraine, there's going to be something going on that all of a sudden we just jump into the fray and, hey, everybody, we can't have an election. I really think we're in trouble. We're in Barney, as they say. That's look, Don's got it on the head. He only needs another emergency to keep him in power. We've already been warned to expect it. It's coming. That's why I keep saying, like, when everybody looks at, like, I like Pierre. I liked him before I met him. And after talking with him, I liked him even more. I like him in terms that, do I trust Pierre Poilievre? No. I don't trust any politician. I will freely say I don't trust Danielle Smith. Now, what I mean by that is I don't know them well enough to trust them. But I think they have the right ideas to get us out of the mess that we're currently in, if that makes sense. So I like them. And I think that they're the best answer to our current problems. But again, when people say, "Oh, next year we're talking about an election, it's all going to fix everybody, it's all going to go away," no, things are going to get real bad before they get better. And the reason I say that is even if let's hypothetically say we see an election in the spring. Let's say we see a March election and Justin Trudeau is kicked out of office and Pierre Poilievre wins a majority conservative government. This is again something Melissa Lantsman said to me when I sat in her office, because she asked me why I backed Pierre so much and what my thoughts were. And right when I was done, kissing Pierre's derriere, She said, I'm going to remind you of something. And I've mentioned it before on stream. She says, there's no light switch that gets flicked that suddenly everything gets better, everything changes, everything goes back to the good old days. That's not going to happen. She was very vocal and said, there's things I don't agree with that the conservatives do, but we all have to find a way to work together. We're not always on the same side. We're not always agreeing with the same things because we all have different views when it comes to politics. That's what makes us politicians. Now, what was she saying? She's not saying that there's corruption. She's not talking about scandals. She's not talking about what she's saying is that people's expectations might be at a 10 when they should be at a 5. Because when you talk about interest rates coming down, well, again, Pierre Poilievre can't go to the Bank of Canada and say, hey, you're going to change that from 8% to 3. They can't just do that. They can't just flick a switch. To get rid of the carbon tax, you still have to put out a bill. They have to vote on it. It has to go through the Senate. It has to be made into an actual order. It takes time to do those things. Now, what I think the good thing is that if Pierre were to win, I'd just be happy knowing, oh, thank God, we're not going to have to deal with any more idiocracy. There's no more scandal. Hopefully. Hopefully there's no more scandal. But there'd be no more Captain Fancy Socks. And I think until things got better, that would be enough. But when we look at what's coming next year, yeah, I think we're in trouble. I think a lot of people are going to be in trouble. You're going to see a lot of homes empty very quick. I think banks may get a little overwhelmed. And, you got these people on YouTube who talk about markets imploding and the housing collapsing. I've got some news for people who think that it's going to drop by 50% or it's going to drop some astronomical value. I'm betting, and I've talked with people that have a pretty good idea of how finances work. They're all predicting somewhere in the realms of 15 to 20%. You're going to see a recourse, but and the reason you got to think that, and the reason you got to keep that in mind, you think about the amount of people in this country that own their homes right now. People even this month, last month, 6 months ago, that bought their houses in Toronto, in Vancouver, at times where they're massively overflated. If you just bought a house in Toronto, you'd been saving up for decades to get a down payment, and you just bought a house for $1 million, and Pierre Poilievre becomes the Prime Minister of Canada, and all of a sudden, overnight, your house is worth $500,000. Are you going to vote for him again? Probably not. The guy just cost you $500,000. It's great for people who don't own homes. But for anybody expecting this miracle that all of a sudden housing is going to become available, there are markets like Toronto, like Vancouver, that are massively overinflated on house prices, that the numbers are just out of whack. And yeah, they do need an adjustment. I do agree with that. But you're not going to see anything. What you're going to see is it become more affordable in terms of interest rates. What you're going to see is it become adjusted to an extent that, you can start to think about maybe moving to an outside area of Toronto, or you can maybe move to an outside area of Vancouver and afford a home. But these houses, these $1 million homes, these $10 million homes, they're not going to plummet. You're not going to see, like, houses in Calgary that are $600,000 right now. They're not going to go down to 3 overnight. They're not going to drop where people are losing their shirts. I think there's going to be incentive and there's going to be opportunities for buyers, but I don't think for those people that are outside of the owner's market right now. And again, I hope there are deals for people wanting to buy property. I'm not saying, keep it up, whatever. I've had the discussion with my wife. We bought our home for less than $500,000 when we bought our house, and it's shot up to over $500,000. Now, I'm not going to disclose exact dollar figures because that's nobody's business. But my wife has said, what happens if our house drops in value? And I said, well, look, as long as it doesn't drop below what we paid for it in 2015, then we're okay, because everything else is just a made up number. Our house isn't worth $1 until the day we choose to sell it. And that's what people have to remember, that if Pierre Poilievre becomes prime minister and suddenly your $1 million home were to go down to $500,000, nobody is going to sell their house. Supply and demand is what fuels the real estate business. So if all of these homeowners have houses that are massively depreciated all of a sudden, they're not going to sell them because they're not going to lose their shirts over them. So you're not going to see all of a sudden $1 million homes for $500,000 and all these people that have been saving up forever suddenly jumping on all these available homes. The people who have those $1 million homes that just bought them at $1 million, they'll sit on them for as long as they have to. They're not going to take a loss. So that's where I say anybody who thinks that all of a sudden, hey, I'm going to get these deals, there's going to be deals to be had. Don't get me wrong. Builders might have incentives to get people into their homes. And what do I mean by that? Um, I'll tell you right now, there was a time when um, when I remember when my wife and I were looking at houses shortly after we got married. And unfortunately, I was in my 20s. I was still having fun. My wife was having fun. So we didn't save as much as we should have. We didn't have kids at the time. We were going out to the bars. We were having fun with our friends. So even though we didn't save and buy a house then, which God, I really wished we would have, there was a lot of incentives at that time because houses had shot up so much that builders would start to do things like you move in and you get a $30,000 incentive where, we pay half your mortgage for the first 2 years or things like that so that you move in, you get it cheap for a couple of years, and then it goes to the normal rate, or they pay for some of your upgrades, or they give you $30,000 in building credits if you want to, develop the basement or get some granite countertops or things like that. So there are incentives. And I think that's what we're going to see in terms of deals, that people are going to be offered new homes where it's, hey, this house in Toronto is now $900,000. And people are going to go, holy Christ, $100,000. Or 900,000. How am I going to afford that? And they go, yeah, but we're going to give you $50,000 in building credits as well to do some upgrades, to get some things. So when you're moving into a home, you're suddenly not going, well, I want to change all these things and pay all this money or go into debt trying to do a reno or something. It's incentivizing people to buy those houses. And I think that's what we're going to see. I think that's what we'll see. Pierre talks about building houses. He wants to remove some red tape. The current plan that we have with the government where they say, hey, home builders right now, ladies and gentlemen, Freeland, God, she talks about it all the time. Well, we're not charging the GST to home builders right now, so that should save people. No, the builders are saving their GST. The end user is still paying the same amount of money. All it's doing is incentivizing them to save a little bit of cash building a building, like a condominium complex or something. That's not benefiting anybody but the builder. You're just putting money back in the builders' pockets, which most of them are probably linked to the liberals anyways. That's why everybody's so easily blinded and goes, oh, well, they're doing what they can, everybody. No, they're not doing anything. They're padding pockets of friends. I'd love it if the government came to me tomorrow and said, hey, we're going to cut the GST out of what you owe us for taxes because you entertain people for a living. I'd be like, sweet, that's awesome. Thank you. I, I wouldn't sit there and go, oh, good, I'm going to make my products cheaper now to reflect that deal you're giving me. If the government really cared, then what they would do is say, we're going to cut out the GST from those properties, provided the builder shows us proof they've removed that 7% or 5% from their housing cost. It would have to go back to the end user, but they don't do those things. They dress it up to sound like this is a great deal. It's not a good deal. Disney Plus subscription. There you go. Aliens bought property and started a monopoly in the housing market. Yeah. Well, when you look at Vancouver, especially when you look at Vancouver, um, how much Chinese money is in that town? How much money laundering, dirty crime money is circulating in Vancouver? I've got a brother who lives in the Vancouver area who says a lot of the houses on their street are empty because they're just bought up in the Chinese market. They're left empty because they're moving money over here so that it doesn't get caught over in places like Hong Kong through crime families and stuff. It's, again, if the government really cared, they cared about tent cities, if they cared about the overinflation of pricing and housing. And don't get me wrong, I was in Vancouver for the first time last September, and I drove through Horseshoe Bay and I did the Sea to Sky Highway, and I took a look around and I kind of said, you know what? I can understand why these houses are over $1 million. When you look at the countryside, the views, the weather you get there, the lifestyle, if you can afford it. I mean, as long as you're not going into like downtown Vancouver, yeah, gorgeous, beautiful city. Aside from the tent cities and stuff in Hastings, but um, beautiful town. So I understand where those prices come from. It's especially North Van luxury living. I get it. I don't agree with it, but I get it. And if people are all of a sudden saying, well, they're going to reduce the red tape and build there so that I can afford to live there, no, that's not. That's not how it's going to work. It's not going to happen. The Chinese are still going to bring their money in. They'd be telling the Chinese, no more money in Canada, no more buying houses. Unless you're going to live in those houses, you're not buying those houses. And if you're going to live in those houses, you have to migrate to Canada, and we're going to vet you before you come over. That's the biggest problem. Immigration, and I've said it in multiple videos, we have an immigration problem. Immigration is going to destroy this country. There's a video I'm going to do after Christmas that's coming up that's going to talk about how Alberta has actually dropped the campaign that Alberta is calling. Danielle Smith, if you don't forget, she started a campaign that Alberta was calling. We wanted tradespeople. We wanted people to move here from all over the country because there were jobs. We were going to have a boom. Everything was going to be great. All those places have been filled now by immigrants that Justin Trudeau is sending here that want to sit on their bums and get handouts. It's destroyed things. And a lot of people who champion that stuff, and again, I don't want to say nothing wrong about anybody who's willing to come to this country, who's going to get their hands dirty, who's going to contribute, they're going to work, they're going to add to the system. I have no problem with that. So long as they're vetted, so long as it's done legally, I have no problems with those things. The problem is that we're bringing in Justin Trudeau's immigrants that, well, we've just opened up the door and said, come on in. Recently, they said we're going to start bringing in Palestinian refugees. Can you imagine the crime that's going to hit our streets when they come pouring in? It's already happening in certain cities. These are people coming from a war-torn country that are going to come in here and start spreading their hate here. How difficult are things going to get in Canada next? This year's going to suck. We're entering period of the end of the traditional capitalism. It'll be techno-feudalism. Yeah, Joseph's got it. He's got it. Trudeau's nothing but a prize pony, homie. The higher ups at the WEF are like his mommy and dad. Yeah, I get it. Romanian Patriot. Hey, welcome to the stream, man. Good to see you here. That's frightening. It is. It's very frightening. So, Raging Against the Machine coming in. I almost said Reagan. Raging Against the Machine. Alberta independence. See, Alberta, a lot of people call for the Wexit, for Alberta independence. You know what sucks is that, like, I'm Canadian through and through. I love Canada. My patriotism has dulled out a little over the last 8 years because of the actions of one man in his political party. What it means to be Canadian has changed, and again, that spark was reignited during the Freedom Convoy. But while I was usually one who said I'd never want Alberta to separate, I'd never want to leave Canada, I'd never want to feel like I turned my back on my country, I'm at the point where it's like, yeah, we should separate. You look at the billions of dollars that gets funneled out of Alberta for royalty transfers. Yeah. People say, well, you're landlocked. Yeah, but we got resources people want. I guarantee you that Alberta right now is told you're not allowed to invest in your pipelines. You're not allowed to frack. You're not allowed to do all these things because they're against the environment. We're not going to put pipelines through. We're not going to build pipelines. If Alberta separated tomorrow and was its own independent country, I guarantee you the Canadian government would come to us kissing our butts because they'd need liquid natural gas and they would need bitumen. They need it. And they'd come very quickly because they wouldn't like the price that they're getting from the Saudis, and they wouldn't like the prices that they're getting from the US. And the reason I say the Saudis, because we're currently getting oil from the Saudis. The problem is, again, is supply and demand. If Alberta was its own country, and let's say Justin Trudeau was in power when that separation happened, you know darn well he'd be sitting there saying, boo, Alberta, you guys suck. And then we'd leave, and he'd come knocking going, okay, you guys suck, but we need some of your bitumen. And we'd say, nah. And then they'd go to the Arabs and say, well, Alberta sucks, and we want your bitumen instead. And the Saudi Arabians would say, that's great. Yeah, we'll give it to you, but the price just went up. And the federal government would say, what do you mean it went up? And they'd say, well, because you have no other ways of getting it. Supply and demand, my friend. You're going to pay more for it now. So either way, the Canadian government would have to come puckering up. And people say, well, you're landlocked. We wouldn't be for very long. That's not to be smug, and that's not to say that Alberta's better than everybody else. It's you have a country that is one of the second largest land masses in the world that has a strong agriculture network. We have liquid natural gas. We have oil. We have manufacturing. There's no reason in the world that this country can't run on its own steam. Why we're taking oil from the Saudis, why we import all these things we don't need to import that we could take care of in our own borders. It's beyond me. Like, these government guys all worry about their pockets and padding their pockets. I'm telling you, if they were to actually do things the right way, if they were to open up a free market in Canada and say, we're going to do everything through our own resources, they'd be able to pad their pockets better than they currently do. They're just too stupid to see it. Can't be a weak Canadian right now. This is our country. I know it is. I know it is. It's just, the problem is that it's the old saying that you push an animal into the corner so far, eventually they strike back. And that's the problem is, again, I love Canada. I'm very patriotic. I love my country, but I hate my government. And when all that's happening is you keep getting punched down again and again and again, eventually you start saying, well, what other options do I have? And if you go through Alberta right now, anybody, the majority of people that are on that Wexit wagon that are saying, let's get independence, I guarantee you that if you ask them why, the majority of them will say, I feel like I don't have another choice. I don't have another choice. I have nowhere. What else am I going to do? I guarantee you the name Justin Trudeau will come up. Shane coming into the $5 super chat. Wow, thank you. If you become the 51st state, you solve the landlock issue, open one of the largest energy markets in the world, and we get a state constitution. Yeah, I've always said that if Canada were to, or if Alberta were to separate, the best thing that could happen is become a U.S. state. Now, I know a lot of things come with that. Like, now all of a sudden everybody's allowed to own guns. Everybody's allowed to, do all those great things you can do in America. And America has their share of problems. But in terms of the landlock issue, I mean, you look at what Donald Trump did with as soon as he got into office, he wanted Keystone. We were getting ripped off in that situation, but we did it because it was beneficial. America was getting the deal of a lifetime. So if America were to actually adopt Alberta, they'd be getting the deal of a lifetime. Again, because all of that oil becomes theirs. Look, Blackface Son of Castro's in here. Welcome into the stream. I wouldn't blame Alberta for leaving. No, it's there's no easy solution is the problem, right? It's like I said earlier, some people feel like, hey, I don't have another choice. I don't have any other choice. What else can I do? Right? And that's the problem, is that aside from hoping that Pierre gets in and does something good, I still worry about things like Uniparty. I still worry about, are we just going to get another government that's just lighter on how they do things? They're still going to do things that we don't like, but maybe it's just not going to be as bad. I'd rather have things be very prosperous for people. Sheila, a good thing with Freedom Convoy brought our country together. And I think, and many think the same. Yeah, I get it. I agree. And that's the thing, is that my patriotism level was probably at its lowest when we were on lockdowns and I was embarrassed to be a Canadian. And like I said, I talked about it before with Tamara's video about her returning to social media, that the day I turned on the TV and seen the trucks blowing through Winnipeg, and you heard the kids on the CB radios thanking the truckers, and you seen all the people cheering on the side of the roads and the overpasses, you'll never see a movement like that in Canada again. I can guarantee you. But boy, did that reignite that feeling of this is what it means to be Canadian. I couldn't agree more. Roman Patriot with a $2 super sticker. Thank you. Jeez, you guys, thank you so much. That's amazing. Thank you for the support. I appreciate that. If Alberta separates, Ottawa has zero power on what happened next, but to declare open war. Yeah, I get it, but again, like what other choices? Like people here, again, I guarantee if you polled the people in Alberta that just wanted to separate, that had the ideology of separation, the majority of them would just say, I just have no other choice. Nobody wants to separate from Canada. People don't want to leave Canada. I'm thinking from Manitoba West, we all separate from Canada. If we do this, we'll be a very small, super rich country. Forget the East. Yeah. Yeah. I've said that often. You know, it's funny. I said the same thing. If you had Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and British Columbia, and then a lot of people from BC say, forget it. We don't want to be part of that and everything. Well, you could still be joined by the territories in Canada, right? We just have our own little independent country right in the middle. We'd do great. Mystical coming in. The good news is the military's in such a sorry state they can't force us to stay. America's not coming to the rescue. Well, look at when Tucker Carlson said that they should rescue Canada, right? Like that's and it makes me wonder what things are going to be like when Tucker comes here in January. I think, I joke around saying there's going to be 12 protesters outside. I think there's going to be a lot more than that. I think it's going to go nuts, especially when he goes to Edmonton. I almost fell off my chair laughing when I heard he was going to go to Edmonton, because it's like, oh my god, Tucker's really pushing the envelope. He's going to get people out. It's it's going to be crazy. And again, we could go on and on about this all night, but ladies and gentlemen, just a little update as for next week. Now with Boxing Day and Christmas, again, people are gone. I won't be releasing any content on Monday or Tuesday, being Christmas Day and Boxing Day. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll still have content on the channel. Again, no live stream next week because, again, Sunday is New Year's Eve. So I guess as we wrap up this stream, I just wanted to kind of reflect on the year and thank everyone. Again, we just hit 13,000 subs earlier this week. If you haven't already hit the subscribe button, make sure you do. Make sure you join the channel and check out the content regularly. This year has been an unbelievable year on this channel. We went from, I think, somewhere around 3,000 or less subs at the end of last year, now all the way to 13,000 this year. Our small fringe minority has turned into a fringe majority here on the channel. There's people in this chat that have been here from the very beginning. There's people in this chat that are new tonight. And I simply can't thank you all enough for the time that you give me on this channel, the time that you spend. I'm very flattered that so many people want to tune in to hear what somebody like me has to say on issues. I'm very flattered and I'm very humbled to bring you what I do. And I know that sometimes people don't agree with what I have to say. Sometimes people do agree with what I have to say. And regardless of what happens, there's 24 hours in a day. And I think that it's so flattering that people take time out of those 24 hours to take their 10 minutes or however many minutes to come by here and watch what this channel has to produce. In terms of supporting our products, again, you can head over to unacceptablefringebooks.com if you still want to pick up signed copies of our books. Limited supplies are still available. But the support from our projects, the support from our community, from our audience on Twitter, on YouTube, it's so overwhelming, and it's something that I can never repay. To know that this Christmas, again, people have my name sitting under their tree is very humbling and flattering. I actually ran into somebody today when I was out shopping that recognized me from the channel and wanted a picture. And it's very flattering to think that I'd ever be in that kind of a position, because I don't see myself like that. I see myself as everybody in this audience. We're all the same. We're all in this together. We're all Canadian. Um, I've been given a great opportunity here, and I promise you, I won't squander it. I'll never abuse it. And I just hope that as we head into the new year, I hope things aren't as bad as I predict. I'm going to get to that super chat in a second. Just give me a sec. I hope things aren't as bad as I predict. I hope everybody here is still here in 2024 with optimism, with their heads held high, that eventually things are going to get better. I hope they get better. I look forward to trying to get this mayoral campaign underway, at least planning in 2024 to try and run for mayor of Calgary. I hope things work out well in that boat. There's a few juggling acts that are going on with that now that well, it's going to be interesting to say the least. But I look forward to being here for each and every one of you. I look forward to having you all in our live streams in the New Year's, and I look forward to our new projects that we're bringing your way as the new year commences. So as I wrap up my 2023 with you guys, aside from the videos that'll come to next week, I just wanted to say that I hope, if you celebrate Christmas, I hope that each and every single one of you have the best and merriest of Christmases. I hope you get time with your family, spend time with your loved ones, hug them, realize that time is never guaranteed, and enjoy every second you get. I know I will be. And for those of you who don't celebrate, I still wish you the best of the season. I wish you the best going into the new year. And I hope you're all safe. I hope you're all happy. And you all join me when we come back in January for our live streams. And again, I look forward to bringing all of that to you. Now, before we leave, I do have to acknowledge Raging Against the Machine's $10 super chat. Glad to see you hanging in there, Derek. Merry Christmas to you and yours. May next year bring more lions. Raging, thank you so much for that super chat. The same to you. I hope you all have the merriest of Christmases. I hope you're all very well looked after and safe. I hope if you have kids that they're happy and fulfilled. And well, Trudeau must go. All of you take care, stay safe, everybody, please. I don't want to hear that we've lost anybody over the holidays, and look after one another. I look forward to seeing each and every one of you. Thank you for being part of the Fringe. Merry Christmas, and everybody have a happy new year.